Hey everyone, I'm the Entertainment Geek, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be going over some of the movies that have had the biggest impact in my life. This will go over some things that y'all probably don't know about me. So this is a great video for y'all to get to know me better. Before we get into this, I apologize for being gone for 3 months. I had to deal with school and high school graduation and all that. But I have more videos planned, so hopefully I can get some more out. But before we get into it, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below some movies that have impacted you. Now let's get into it. I'm going to be splitting this into a few categories, starting with nostalgia. I grew up with these movies, and I can count on them to get me through certain rough patches in life. Now I want to start with the movie that started it all, Finding Nemo. Now this is the first movie I remember watching, and it's actually the earliest memory that I can think back to. I was toddler age, and I remember being in my high chair eating SpaghettiOs while watching this. I think it's kind of fitting that my earliest memory is movie related. But because of this, Finding Nemo just gives me the most nostalgia out of any movie I've ever seen. The nostalgia hits me even when I just listen to the score. But yeah. The next movie I want to talk about is Curious George. As ridiculous as it sounds, this is truly one of my favorite movies of all time. The most recent time I watched this, I was going through a very rough time mentally, and this movie helped get my emotions out. I would truly bawl my eyes out when I watched this. If nostalgia was a movie for me, this would be it, because I feel at home in my heart when I watch this movie. The colors and the animation, and then the Jack Johnson soundtrack, everything about it just warms my heart every time I watch it. And I kid you not, I will break down in tears not even 5 minutes into it. So now to cap off this category, I will quickly list off the other movies, but I won't go too much into them. I grew up with some of the older movies like The Goonies, Indiana Jones trilogy, which has one of the most underrated scores in my opinion, Back to the Future, and of course the original and prequel Star Wars trilogies. I remember staying up late watching the original Star Wars trilogy when certain TV channels ran marathons all day. And then the last thing I'll mention is the Wallace and Gromit movies. If you have not seen any of those movies, you're clearly missing out on peak cinema. But that leads into the next category, which is the movies that have impacted my writing. Now for those of you who don't know, I'm a writer. I like to write poetry, stories, and scripts, and it is my dream to become a writer and director. And so of course there are some movies that have really impacted the way I write a script or a story. The first movie I want to talk about is one that may surprise many, and that is Dazed and Confused. Not only is this my fourth favorite movie of all time, but it has really impacted some of my storytelling. The movie really has no set plot, but the writing is done well enough where it's not boring at all. The characters develop in their own way throughout the movie, and it's really just interesting how phenomenal this movie is, with it just being about a bunch of teenagers smoking and drinking. The next movie I want to talk about is Moonlight. Coming from someone who's trying to create their own short film at the moment, but is failing miserably, I would describe the type of stories I want to create as being more grounded in reality. Like the one I'm working on right now is about two friends hanging out one last time before graduation. This movie feels grounded in a way. It's written, and it's slow, and it's pacing and very deliberate. And if you haven't seen Moonlight already, you should definitely go check it out because it is one of my favorite movies. The next thing I want to talk about is the Studio Ghibli movies that I've seen. These movies have really impacted the way I view world building. Every Studio Ghibli movie has its own unique and well thought out world, Princess Mononoke, Porco Rosso, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and Spirited Away are the ones with the best world building in my opinion. I've definitely used some of their world building tactics in the fantasy book that I'm currently writing. I've had to create a whole new world with creatures and everything, and movies like these are a big help at getting inspiration. The next category is the main reason I love movies. These are movies that have impacted the way I view life. There are a lot of movies on this list, so I'll try to get through them as fast as I can. The first movie I want to talk about is A Ghost Story. This movie really made me reflect on my life, as there is a scene that really got to me emotionally. While this movie pushes nihilistic views, I find that this movie helps me find more meaning in my life. Anytime I listen to the phenomenal score, it just gets me in that reflecting mood. The next movie I want to talk about is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Now this movie is just phenomenal. It hits even harder now that I have experience with failed relationships. They didn't last nearly as long, but there are some memories I look back with fondness, even though it ended so badly. And so this movie always gets me emotional. And honestly, if you haven't seen it already, what are you doing? You need to watch it. The next movie I want to talk about is Punch Drunk Love. Now this movie is just beautiful. The colors, the score, the performances, the story, everything. The reason this has made such an impact on me is because I want so badly to know what it's like to live like this, to find that person who gives you the strength to do anything. I unfortunately haven't had the luxury of knowing what that feels like yet, but this movie gives me hope of finding that one. The next movie I want to talk about is Asteroid City. Now there's only one scene that gets to me, and that's the scene where Jason Schwartzman's character goes to Adrian Brody's character, asking what the meaning of the play is. And in the scene, Adrian Brody just says, just keep telling the story. And it just gets to me for some reason. I feel connected with Jason Schwartzman's character because I'm struggling to find meaning in my passion for telling my stories. I feel like that scene is talking to me directly, telling me to just keep writing. Those black and white scenes are my favorite part of the movie because they show what the meaning and theme of the movie is. The next movie I want to talk about is American Fiction. Now this is the most recent movie on this list since it released last year. I really relate to Jeffrey Wright's character because he is also a writer. And not only that, but a lot of the family dynamics in this movie is stuff that I have experienced in my own personal life. I also watched this movie a day a relationship I had with someone ended, and this movie helped me process my thoughts on that. I feel most at home with this movie, and this is just a movie I relate to heavily, which is why it's on this list. The next movie I want to talk about is Frances Ha. The reason this movie has made such an impact on me is because I heavily relate to Greta Gerwig's character. I know I'm not like an adult yet, but I do find this really relatable because I'm at a point in my life where I found what I want to do career-wise, but I keep making dumb decisions, like focusing on lesser important things that don't help me with my career path. And I felt so unproductive since last summer, and it just sucks. There's so much I want to do, and I know I have plenty of time, but I want to get some stuff done before I move states, which is happening at the end of this month. But seeing the path that Frances took and how it eventually ended on a high note really just got to me, and it made me realize that although this time of my life may not be where I want to be, as long as I keep going, it'll all end well. The next movie I want to talk about is Soul. Now, at the moment, this is my favorite Pixar movie of all time. I know that's kind of a hot take, but sue me, I guess. It's not only because of the fantastic jazz score, but the meaning of the movie itself. Coming from someone who wants to be in an industry similar to the music industry and how difficult it is to be successful, I highly relate to the main character, Joe Gardner, and I find it can be easy to get caught up with chasing a dream that you tend to miss all the little things in life. And I just get emotional every time I watch this movie because it reminds me to enjoy the simple things. Now the next movie I want to talk about is The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. This one is important to me because I heavily relate to Walter in the movie. Much like him, my mind is always wandering and I'm constantly thinking of false scenarios, which is how I think of my story ideas. But I'm also really awkward around people sometimes, and seeing Walter change into a more confident and social person as he explored more is something I relate to also. Over the past few years, I've been trying lots of new things. I started writing, doing movie reviews, started this channel, and started putting myself out there more. And because of that, I've seen how much I've grown as a person, and I honestly feel better about myself in many ways. If I told my younger self what I'd be doing right now, he wouldn't believe me because of how introverted I was. And I still struggle from time to time with my social anxiety, but I've improved tremendously. The next movie I want to talk about is It's a Wonderful Life. This is my favorite Christmas movie of all time. George Bailey is another character I relate to. His want to travel and leave the town he lives in behind is something I want to do because I've lived in the same place my entire life. And I do feel very trapped at times. The last time I watched this movie, I was also going through my first ever heartbreak, so I was in a really bad place. But this movie helped me deal with my emotions. Every time I watch this movie, I tear up. And the message is just beautiful. Like, it's such a beautiful movie. And I always watch it every year, so. The next movie I want to talk about is Only Yesterday. This movie is about the main character reminiscing about her past, and as I transition into a new period of my life, I find myself reminiscing about my past more and more. I tend to do so because there's been many times where I've missed opportunities. Like I've mentioned before, I've been a really shy person all my life, and it's led me to miss many opportunities for stuff I could have done. When I watched this, I gave it an 8 out of 10, but ever since that first watch, I've been thinking about this movie constantly, and I know once I eventually rewatch it, I'm gonna change it to 10 out of 10, because this is one of those movies that gets better the more times you watch it. So definitely check out this movie if you haven't already. It's another Studio Ghibli movie, so like that should be enough. That should tell you enough. Now, the last movie, which is actually multiple movies, I want to talk about is the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Now, if you don't know already, I'm quite obsessed with these movies. I rewatch them multiple times a year, and I could go on and on for hours about why this trilogy is one of the best things that ever exist on this earth. I'll try not to ramble on too much, but these movies are my main source of inspiration and motivation for writing and filmmaking. I can always count on these movies. When I rewatch them, they instantly make me feel better, and I can cry my eyes out and laugh and be transported away from the real world. The Lord of the Rings trilogy is what got me into movies growing up, and once my writing gets better on these videos, I definitely plan on doing an in-depth video on why I love Lord of the Rings, because I've always wanted to share my personal experience on this trilogy. It's one of the most important things in my life. I legit watch this trilogy at least twice a year. One of my main goals is to create, especially with the fantasy book I'm writing, to create something like this that just resonates with people, and so hopefully I'll be able to live that dream someday, but we'll see. Anyways, that concludes this video. I hope you enjoyed. I know this is a little more of a personal video, but I wanted to share the movies that are important to me. Comment down below some movies that are important to you, because I would love to know more about y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe. Hope everyone has the best day. Toodles!